Did I really say that? Yeah, the state of San Francisco is what we want to talk about and what's going on in the state, not the state as a whole, the state as in mindset. And if you look to your right, and if you're just joining me, yes, Raw Media is on. Yes, Jason, producer. There's a link if you want to talk. And we will talk about the state of San Francisco, and for that matter, the state of the USA as we know it right now. A lot of people have been, and you're the guest, by the way. So there's a link on the right hand. I guess it's the right hand side. It might be the left of you that allows you to join in and talk if you want to, or you can just type a message and then we will try to read your message. But if you join in, I will see you in the backstage and I'll bring you on one at a time. One at a time. We can discuss something that's going on out there because it's been pretty crazy. I just did a Reddit last week, and I was surprised at how many people from the Bay Area were like, "Oh my God, what is going on?" So I decided to ask you what's going on. Now, Jace can't answer because he's in Florida, and we already know that Florida is like bat crazy in some parts. We've seen the videos. People are always showing the GIF of Bugs Bunny cutting off the edge of the peninsula from Florida. But we want to talk about the attacks out there, the auto burglaries, which were going on before I left, and anything that you want to talk about for a few minutes, we will talk about it. It's interesting, and if you're with me right now, you're on. Apparently, we're on YouTube, but it didn't look like it popped up on Twitch. So if you're not on Twitch, let me know. I don't see it showing up, even though the link is. I'm not getting a check mark for that one. So if you're on Twitch and you can see this, check in. Let me know you're here. I know you're here on YouTube. I know you're here on Facebook and on Periscope, but I'm not seeing the Twitch pop up. So if you're there and you can drop in, say hi, please do. We want to know what's going on, and we won't be here forever. Eric just popped in, and so I'm just popping up. Oh, there we go. So I see Periscope. So that means that's Jace is on Periscope, which means he's on Twitter. You will fill the entire newscast with people behaving badly these days. Yes, I've been paying attention to what's been going on in San Francisco. We don't use that name anymore for obvious reasons. So now we like to say caught misbehaving. And thank you, Jace, for confirming that Twitch is on. It doesn't show it in the restream, so I don't know for sure. But if you click the link that I supplied in the beginning, you can come on, you can talk. If you don't want to talk, you just want to send a message, you can. But I wanted to give a chance for people to converse. Now, if you want to converse and you can't do it on Twitch, then switch over to, you can't do it on Twitter. Switch over to Twitch. It's twitch.tv/Mr. Badley. You can make comments there. I'm not sure if you can comment or not you can on Periscope because I see Jace there. So yes, you can do it there. You can also comment on Facebook, and you can also make comments on YouTube. This will be an actual podcast later. I just wanted to give everyone a chance to talk to me. And if there's nothing going on and it's great, then I don't need to be here. I can go for my business and keep doing what I'm doing. But I do have some shoots scheduled for the Bay Area very soon. So there will be some stuff coming out of the area looking at some of the issues that's been going on. I'm not going to say where, when, and how, but I do plan on being be there. Abel Gomez, it is sad but true. Yes, I've been watching. It seems almost like every day there is an attack against someone of Asian descent in San Francisco. This morning, that one of the bus lines, there was a contest on one of the bus lines called Slap a Asian, and it was on a 38, I think, maybe. I got to look it up again. But so people were actually on the bus spitting on people, slapping them, pulling their hair. we revert into savage. I mean, it's almost like, if you ask me. And Jason thinks it's safe to say that every place has shootings and stupidity. Yes, I mean, you're absolutely right. There have been cases of people getting slashed on trains in New York. There have been cases in Seattle. There have been cases in San Francisco. Let's just say the stupidity is raining down right now. There's been that, obviously, the thing that happened in Boulder, Colorado. That's big right now. You know, people are blaming it on COVID. They're claiming that, COVID-19, everybody in their houses, so they're stir crazy, and that's the reason why they're doing what they're doing. We can't forget the Atlanta spa shootings. Brenda asked, what's happening to humanity? If you go back in history, I went back as far back as the 1300s, where they had the Black Plague. And if you haven't done any research on the Black Plague, people were literally dropping dead in the middle of the street from the bubonic plague. It was called the bubonic plague. That's the name it was given, but it was called the Black Plague back then. And it went on forever. And people thought back then that this was the end of the world. So the end of the world is relative to a lot of people. To the fact that every time something really bad happens, we always think it's the end of the world. And there are religious cults that believe the end of the world is coming. There are religious groups that believe the end of the world is coming. Hey, Gordon. I don't know no one knows when or time and day when the end will come. So we don't know. But you have to admit, I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on right now. And I want to hear you come on and talk to me. Log on. There's a link. If you don't have it, I'll post it again. If you click that link, it'll bring you into the studio, and we'll have a chat with you. Now, if you behave yourself, you can stay in the studio. But if you act up, I can easily just kick you out like that. So, and people who know who I'm talking about. And by the way, Bravo Bean, aliens, it's a metaphor for our segment. Reason why aliens, whatever. It just basically means that, and I always said this, and I'll say it again. There's a huge billboard somewhere out in space that's telling the aliens to keep going. Don't even stop here, because it's just a hot mess right now. And you got to admit it. If you were the outside looking in, it's a hot mess. Hey, DD, Overstreet. And people call it the second coming of Christ. Even people call Donald Trump the Antichrist. I mean, there are so many different things out right now. And now some people are calling Biden the Antichrist. So, I mean, we just pick up names if we want to and give names out randomly, nilly-willy. Jace is here, and I don't see his face pop up yet. He has a very low signal. So once I see him pop in, I'll know he can answer a question. But I'm here for anybody, not just the Bay Area, but I use the Bay because, I lived there for 20 years. Oh, and did you read that? Yeah. Just cut. Oh, Jace, put some clothes on. Come on, pop on. We want to talk to you. But I'll give you some audio. Hold on. Are you there, Jace?
Yeah, I'm here. I just cut my hair.
So that makes you not want to be on camera because you just cut your hair?
It means I have no shirt on. You can't wear hairy shirts, man. It's bad enough I got a dog and she sheds on me. I can't even go out in public with a black shirt on because I got white fur all over me. But I wanted to comment on what you're talking about and the state of crazy that's going on. And one thing I think is that and I don't even know if this is the right word, but I think tolerant. We have, oh, you can't say that to them. Oh, don't help people because if you help somebody, there's a possibility that you can get sued. We are all so stuck in minding our own business that we don't see or don't care about what's going on to another person. But much like this, okay, there's recently a story about a 6-year-old African-American child who got arrested for picking a flower, was arrested, booked, charged, and taken to court. Why do we allow that?
That's a good question. Why do we? That's something we can put out there and see what other
Somehow,
people
somebody
say.
has said that
Hold on
is
one second.
okay
One
to
person.
do. I'm sorry.
Well, you know what? Social media has changed our perception of everything. But Officer GT just popped on YouTube and asked, "Hi, I'm new. What's the stream about?" Well, the stream is called Rawini.
Yeah,
It's reasons
Rowena.
why aliens would never invade Earth, but it's not about aliens. It's a metaphor of how messed up the world is right now. And so we normally have guests on to talk about certain things and certain subjects. Today, though, I wanted to come on, especially based on the shooting in Boulder and the murders in Atlanta and the San Francisco. So we're just kind of talking about what is going on right now and how can we fix things. So continue, Jace. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine. I was just saying that somehow, somewhere, somebody has decided that it is okay to arrest a 6-year-old or accept a complaint on a 6-year-old who's picking a flower.
I
And
haven't seen the story yet, but I'd like to read up on some more about it.
I am going to say I believe it is regardless of the child's skin color, because there has been 42% of African American children, 40% of Caucasian children, and the other remaining percent being other nationalities. So somewhere somebody has decided that this was an acceptable thing to do. Who says you are allowed to arrest a child over picking a flower? It is a child. I'm sorry, but if my child goes outside right now, at what point do we decide, okay, now this child can potentially deal with a life-altering consequence of having a criminal record at 6?
Remember the little girl in San Francisco who was selling water, $2 bottles of water?
Yeah.
And the lady called 911 on her and said that she was selling without a permit?
Yes.
Okay. So that was the beginning of, you can go backwards and remember the Karen they called her who called about people barbecuing at Lake Merritt. I think it was Lake Merritt.
Yeah, because she could smell the food.
Well, she didn't like it. So people call the cops. I mean, honestly, and I had this discussion on Clubhouse. People can call the cops on anything nowadays. And the part that bugs me about that they can call the cops on anything is that they call the cops on anything, but then all of a sudden the cop is the bad guy when they show up.
Yeah.
The cops didn't make the call. Someone made the call and said, I want to be anonymous. Remember a long time ago when you wanted to get the police to show up quicker, you said there was a gun?
Yep.
Remember that day back before they had caller ID and you said, hey, there's a fight. And you want the cops to get there really fast. And it turns out that the only way you can get the cops to be there real fast is by saying that someone had a gun.
Yep. Somebody has a weapon.
Yes. The minute you say a weapon, everybody shows up. So even with the kid picking flowers, and I haven't seen the whole after, I don't like to go off of what I call 15 seconds of bullcrap. And the 15 seconds of bullcrap came from me when Instagram first came out and they allowed you to post 15 seconds of video only. And so stories were made up out of those 15 seconds. People gave it a beginning and an end just from what they saw in the middle. And your entire decision-making was thrown out the door. And you were basically stuck on the 15 minutes of whatever came up.
Yeah.
So someone just wrote, Democrats, let me put this out here so you can see it. And I'll look at that in a second.
Yep.
Someone just wrote, Democrats did San Francisco the way it is. Oakland too. Look up when the last time Republicans ran anything in the Bay. So, I don't like to get into politics. I never like to get involved in politics because to me, politics are a slippery slope. Because the minute you start blaming one group or another, then you'll have someone that'll come back and tell you and give you evidence as to why that person should not be blamed. I think that the politics of San Francisco, as it relates to fighting crime and how they deal with crime, is what caused a lot of these problems. And that goes back to Prop 47. And we're going to take a break for about a minute. But as Diane Faith wrote, politics is just an excuse. So we're going to take a break for about a minute, and we're going to come back and we're going to talk about some of the politics and some that are up and coming in San Francisco, which I think will affect the entire nation as a whole at some point. So we'll take a break. If you want to log in, you're welcome to. And we'll be back as soon as I push the button. There we go. I know. Is your mic muted? No.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it appears that Stanley has broken something. I'm kidding. It probably has nothing to do with Stanley. I can actually see his hand, and I believe he has his microphone muted. Again, don't forget to check out his the banner at the top of the YouTube channel. You will see the links for all of his social media: YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and his Discord as well. Go on a computer; it should be right in the banner. I believe you can even go there on mobile. I'm not 100% sure, but if you can't find it on mobile, click on About on his YouTube channel. It should give you all the links where you can find him and all of the podcasts, the recorded works, and other things that you can find from Stan. It should be his Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, I believe, is up there, and his Discord. Check out his Discord. You can go there and chat with him while he's not recording a show as well. Yes, and make sure you support Stanley's Countdown Timers. Thank you, Gordon. I can also read the chat, so if anybody has any questions for me about maybe where we can find things for Stan or find other things for Stan, I can help point you in the right direction. But mostly, if you go to his YouTube channel on mobile or even on the website, It should be at the top. It should be at the bottom right-hand corner of the banner on his YouTube channel, and that will give you the opportunity to find and follow all of his other works, both Raw Weenie and Millennial Boom with Diane. Um, you can hear the audio podcast because that is on Spotify and Apple Podcast. So if you have an Apple device or even an Android device and you have Spotify, you can find reasons why aliens will never invade Earth. And you should also be able to find Millennial Boom. I've been helping upload those for him. So check out Stanley's countdown timers, as well as all of Stanley's social media links based on what's going on. The last 3 minutes, I have an alarm going off. So hey, no problem. I really hope that everything is okay over there. But Gordon, thank you for the laugh for Stanley's countdown timers. Oh, there you go. Welcome back, sir.
They're testing the alarm system, and unfortunately, it was supposed to have been sometime today, and it didn't happen until now. And it may go off again, but let's hope not. We know they work. There's no fire. They even told us not to call 911, so we didn't. But welcome to the real world where the fire alarms go off right in the middle of a podcast. You gotta love it. Thank you, Jace, for filling in the blanks.
Hey, you're welcome. No problem. It's what I do.
And Diane wrote that it was that there was the fire alarm, but nobody saw that one.
No, I
and
saw
so
it.
Back to where we were before. So apparently, we read up on the story. Tell me about it again, real quick, Diane. It was about the kid and the flowers.
Yeah, it's a 6-year-old who's at a bus stop and he picked a tulip in the yard.
All right, so she did some research on a 6-year-old, and if you know Diane's sitting here, she's my producer on it. She helps me out with things, so you'll hear her voice from time to time. And it's a kid picking tulips, and someone called 911 on him. So I don't know, what was the outcome? Jace, did the kid get arrested? Did the kid get fined?
The kid was arrested and brought to court. I didn't see what the final outcome was, but I know that he was brought to court, and I think they're trying to offer some kind of therapy instead of criminal charges.
What state is this in?
North Carolina.
North Carolina. Thank you. You did tell me that. That's really crazy.
I just think it's funny. How do you have a criminal defendant, and you have the prosecutor, ma'am, sir, judge, I need to tell you about this 6-year-old. He eats glue. He put a tack on his teacher's chair, and he picks flowers. He is a criminal. No, come on. Apparently, the kid was offered a lawyer, and the lawyer brought him coloring books and crayons because he was bored in court.
That's bananas. That is bananas.
I just don't understand how we as a society have decided that is acceptable to do.
That makes sense. I get it. So, I don't know. I mean, it's crazy, but I mean, apparently we've gotten to the state of mind where, we call 911 for everything. On one hand, we want to defund the police. On the other hand, we call them for little trivial things, which probably shouldn't have the police call them. And I'm think that's a good idea to call the cops on a 6-year-old. And the fact that they're tying up the court system is disturbing to me as well. So
I think the judge should have had it on the table and said, no, I'm going to dismiss this right away, immediately. I'm not even going to hear this case.
Well, remember,
I think it would be different if the child assaulted somebody in school, and it's a little bit different from bumping into somebody at recess to maybe slamming their face into a brick wall. I think there's a complete and total difference. But the kid picked a flower. I think the judge should have said, I'm not even going to bother hearing this case. I don't want to hear it. I have no interest in hearing this, and the case is dismissed, and you better delete that kid's criminal record immediately.
So let me throw something out at you guys. So in California, they were trying to, they had Prop 47, which decriminalized shoplifting, basically. So if you stole less than $950 worth of merchandise, you would be charged a misdemeanor. Now, what the criminals were doing was showing up at stores with calculators and calculating up to $949. So if they got caught, they would only be charged with a misdemeanor. This is what's really been happening. So the word travels quickly when there's bad news. When the criminals can get away with something, it's out there regularly and it's heavy duty and everybody knows it. Autobergs, when they did auto picked up significantly. Now, SB 81 and SB 82 are working their way up to the system right now. Senate bill, 81 and 82, which will decriminalize, you ready for this one?
Mm-hmm.
Robberies. So the way it would decriminalize robberies is that if there's no one injured in the robbery, then it's a misdemeanor, a slap on the wrist. Now, they're saying this is to make the justice system more fair. But in my opinion, if you're committing a crime, you're committing a crime.
That's the same situation that I'm having with Delaware and providing a year of good time to people that are incarcerated because of the coronavirus. House Bill 37 that's going through Delaware, they want to provide up to 1 year of good time so that you can get out earlier.
Well, remember though, when COVID hit in California, there was a directive for law enforcement to, only make arrests if someone is seriously causing, something dangerous, if they were a threat to society. And so that was to keep people from getting in jail and then catching corona, and then they have to pay for it. Word catches on very quickly when people think they can get away with crimes.
Mm-hmm.
If the NCR Transport said, if there's room for abuse, it gets abused. I agree 100% that if there's room for abuse, people will abuse it. You can use simple case in points. So somebody wrote, wait. I thought robbery was considered taking someone by force and then moving it a little bit. Well, yes, it is taking something by force, but they want to decriminalize taking things by force. If the person's not injured when taking it by force, then it's a misdemeanor. So you're basically going to say it's a free-for-all for robberies, basically, if you think about it. Because as long as you don't injure the person, now if it's with a gun, that's different. If it's larceny, which would be stealing from someone's porch, that's not the same as robbery, but it would be decriminalized too, depending on the amount. And yes, there were thousands of inmates in California that were released early because of COVID-19. So if you assault the person, but they're not injured, like a broken bone or something, then it's a misdemeanor. So robbery is taking something by force. Burglary is like breaking into a house or breaking into a car. Those were decriminalized under $950. The new one, if it goes through, will be, and it's going to come through with something a lot different than what I'm telling you. But if it goes through, and remember, when California sneezes, the rest of the country catches a cold. So, and purse snatching. If you snatch a purse and the person gets away with just start purse snatching, you catch the person. If the person wasn't injured during the purse snatching, it's just hey, don't do it again. Here's a ticket. So basically, we're making it easier for the criminals to commit crimes, and all for the sake of justice. And I understand that
is
there
it
was
the sake of justice, or is it the sake of not having people in prison because of COVID?
No, this was because, and they're saying that because of so many people that were incarcerated that shouldn't have been, and it kind of both. They're kind of saying that if we keep people out from being incarcerated, we don't put them in the system. Like in San Francisco right now, if you commit a crime, they allow you to go into called restorative justice, where they try to fix you up and make you better so you don't commit a crime again. And then they convince the victim to say, hey, look, go for this. And remember, Prop 47 was before COVID, as Diane Faith made it clear. It was before COVID. So this happened long before we even heard of COVID and before it was a pandemic. And the crimes were heavily, and now you got, one of my friends who was a reporter at a station in San Francisco was doing a story about burglaries and robberies and got robbed at gunpoint in broad daylight. And the criminals know how to apply the laws. They know where they can get away with. And since more and more people are understanding that they can get away, remember the license plates before they were doing the robberies, so then we got rid of that. You had to have a plate. So now they're stealing plates from other cars to avoid bridge tolls or to avoid other things, being caught when committing crimes. So I posted a link earlier. If you want to come on and talk for a second, you're welcome to.
Yep, I'll
we
step
all like
out.
Jason.
Thank you for having me.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you, Jace. Thank you for talking. I appreciate what you had to say.
I figured I would avoid the insult of we're tired of looking at Jason's face, as you were trying to say before I interrupted.
No, I would never say that. You have a lovely face, Jace. Just,
Thanks.
just that, we gotta let you go in the back, hide out there in the back.
All right, I'll see you guys later.
All right, thank you. So, if you want to come on, and camera crews, if you knew, I was one of the camera crews. I never got robbed at gunpoint, but I will tell you this, that I watched this camera crews they were doing live shots, which basically advertised where they were. And while they were advertising where they were getting robbed, and sometimes live on TV. And this was before COVID. And I keep saying it wrong. It's not COVID, it's COVID. But I don't know why I always make it sound longer than what it is. But this was happening long before that happened. We had meetings to try to figure out how to stop crews from being robbed. And you're talking about Twin Peaks. That was a different one. But yes, that was one that took place at Twin Peaks. There was one that took place on the Embarcadero where you saw the video of the camera being dragged into the car live on camera, on TV, because they grabbed it right on the air at gunpoint. So they didn't care. And, they don't care about the crews. They're not going to care about you. And they don't care about, and they're not prosecuting them out there. They're getting away. So that's where the problem is. Thank you. I'm sorry, I stopped for a second. I was reading something. He's on a quick break. Love the discussion. Well, you know what? We're going to have discussion, and we'll try to have it more often. By the way, next week, we're going to have an NYPD officer on here, and we're going to talk for about 45 minutes about some very important subject matter. So this is, and if you're just joining us, this is Reasons Why Aliens Will Never Invade Earth podcast. And right in the middle of our podcast, we had a giant test for a fire alarm. So there's color bars up for a little while they're there if you go through and you see it. We're going to probably delete them out later and take that part out. And there was a question, they wonder where they saw the TV cameras. Well, some crews, and I'm not going to say it, but they found a way to make sure that things can be located. And they found some when they were stolen. And I'm not going to give away how they found them, because then that just gives the bad guys more of an advantage that we don't want them to have. I'm not here to help the bad guys. And if you know, the bad guys do not like me, because every time I do something that affects the bad guys, they come at my Twitter, they come at my Facebook, they come at my Instagram, and they come, and you've seen the tweets, you've seen the messages, you've seen, the FUs. There used to be a time when there was a FU, a tag on Instagram was FU Stanley Roberts. And that was the actual tag on Instagram. Instagram took it down at one time. They installed Stanley Standees. Yeah, well, I don't think those are going to work after a while. Everybody knows everything. They know where things are. It made news more expensive because they had to hire security to protect the crews. And then there's a case of safe neighborhoods, which aren't turning out to be safe anymore because crews are being robbed in what people are considered to be safe neighborhoods. So the joke I had with the photographer who got robbed at gunpoint, who had to be a good friend of mine, and we used to work together a long time ago, he was in one of those safe neighborhoods when he got robbed at gunpoint. So there is no safe neighborhood. As long as people have cars that can drive to where they were and where you are, and they find you. That's why when I used to do tweets, I would tweet after I left. Never tweet when I'm there, because that just says, I'm right here, come get me. You do it after the fact. So that way you'd always wonder, well, he just tweeted here. How come he's not here? Because I just left. So, and people would show up looking for me. And I made the mistake once of tweeting live in real time at a laundromat. I was there with my youngest daughter, and people showed up at the laundromat. So I learned a lesson from that one, is that you tweet after you leave. If you're a news crew and you're doing a story, you post something after you leave. Don't do it while you're still there, because all it does is they're watching, they're monitoring, and they know what to do. So I left a link up for people to talk. And the only person that came on was Jay. So I bet nobody wants to come on. Usually Gordon pops in and says something, but if you're here and you joined us, I do appreciate it. And if you missed the fire alarm, you missed that one too. Hi, Stanley. I still watch your videos, even though I'm not in the country. I'm in the Philippines right now for a family emergency. The Philippines. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if they're having the same problems in the Philippines, but thank you for watching. I appreciate it. It is true that the city went down. Let me try to read that. Is it true that the city went down when the Bay Bridge was closed for 5 days? Well, keep in mind, everybody wants to say that the crime is coming in from Oakland, and the Bay Bridge is where they come through. But the last robbery bust by San Francisco PD, I think it was Central Division, there were 4 juveniles that were doing it. One was an adult that was driving, and they were from San Francisco. So that's not always true. But we're going to take a break, hopefully no fire alarms, and we'll come back in a few minutes, and we'll talk some more about what's going on out there. And if you have a comment, click the link, let me know you're there, and I'll bring you in. And you don't have to be on camera. You can just talk, and you can hear your voice. Is that fair enough? Be back in a minute. So we're back, and if you're just joining us, this is Reasons Why Aliens Will Never Invade Earth. It's not about aliens. It's more of a metaphor of what's going on in the world. And I was trying to read a comment from Vicky, and it's really long, so I can't even, let me see if I post it, what will happen. It'll probably not even show up because it's so long. Oh, yeah, it goes on and on. And it's about, oops, yeah, I'm going to take it off because it doesn't go long enough. It's about pedestrian safety and how pedestrian safety isn't really isn't really helping out right now in the Bay Area, that people aren't paying attention. And I'll read it to you real quick. It says, Stanley, this may seem trivial to many. I work in pedestrian safety. Nothing is more important to a pedestrian than knowing which way cars will go. Yet for reasons unknown, SFPD has so little interest in turn signals that they don't follow the law themselves. And they quote Vehicle Code 22107. That has been a law since the 1950s and perhaps the 40s. Blinkers not only help people know which way the cars are turning at an intersection, those help with drivers too. Nothing in driving takes less effort than flicking that turn signal. SFPD could model good behavior and they have no exception to ignoring long-standing lights in routine driving, not emergencies. So it goes on. And if you're there and you're here, you can probably read some more of it yourself. The issue with, I've done this story before about turn signals. And a lot of people do not use the turn signals. And I think in one of my segments, I was behind an SFPD patrol car who didn't use the turn signal. And it's always been a joke. And when I talk to cops about how come they don't use their turn signals, and they say, well, we don't want the criminals to know which way we're going. But realistically, it's good that everybody knows the direction you're going to turn your vehicle, unless you're in an emergency, obviously. But I always made the joke was that no one ever used their turn signal because you can't hold your cell phone and hit your turn signal at the same time. And yes, the cell phone rules, the cell phones are supposed to be put away and not used, but no one paid attention to that. And Gabriel honks at people for not using their turn signals. And Gabriel, I don't know about in Ohio, but in California, it's actually illegal to honk unless there's an emergency. So not having a turn signal doesn't qualify as an emergency, although it does help people figure out which direction you're going to go, because we're not psychic. And nothing bugs me more than to wait to make a turn and the car doesn't tell me which way they're going to go, and then they turn, and I could have went not knowing that they were going to turn. So I do agree that everyone should use their turn signal. Everyone should use a turn signal. If you're driving a patrol car to a trash truck, use your turn signal. So what do you think about that, Vicky? What do you think? Did I get it right that time? And Chief Sir was a nice guy. He made a joke about it too. Yes, Chief Sir was a big guy. But I mean, you can't make it a policy when it's already a law about using a turn signal. And of course, Gabriel says horn laws are vague. They're not that vague. Stan, you do you, is what Vicky said. Thanks. Anyway, so back to what I was saying before. So there are so many different rules out there and that's going on. And San Francisco, you would think is really bad. It's not as, I mean, it's bad because it appears that way because all we see is the negative stuff. But there's a lot of good stuff going on in the city. We just have to start highlighting those good things. I'm not going to be in here forever because, this is going forever. And I gave people a chance to talk. Not too many people popped on, but this was your chance to speak. And I appreciate you typing the messages, and I do appreciate that. Oh, wow, look, Eva Bass just showed up. Hello, Eve. Nice to see you. So important that we keep in touch with everything that goes on in our community, whether it's San Francisco, whether it's Ohio, whether it's Florida, whether it's Philadelphia, Philippines, wherever you are, it's important. And Gabriel brought up an old segment called "Just Trying to Cross Second." Uber driver who blocked you from clearing the intersection. Yes, I did honk, and that was a violation. I shouldn't have honked, but I did. So there you go. You got me, Gabe. That was many, many, many years ago, and I learned the law, so I've been following it. I don't honk very much anymore. Anyway, so we're going to call it. We're going to wrap it. We appreciate you guys for showing up. Next week, we will have a guest back. We were going to have a guest today. Well, Gabriel remembers stuff because he just sits back and remembers things all the time. That's his job, is to remember stuff that we did wrong and forget the stuff that he did right. Thank you for watching. Remember, you can log on to Twitter. As a matter of fact, follow me on Twitter at Reasons Why Aliens Would Ever Invade Earth or at Rawini. Yeah, that was my cheesy smile. Or you can go to Caught Misbehaving. There's links there. Also, at the top of YouTube, there's a bunch of links. There's a link tree. You can click any one of those links and follow. And my health is fine. It wasn't my heart. It was a stroke. Nothing to do with heart. That's the biggest misconception. It was nothing to do with my heart. It was a blood clot in my brain. Big difference. Thank you, and you guys have a good evening.